There is power behind every story we carry within. Every tragedy, no, yes, laugh, victory. And every testimony that is incubated within our souls have power. The power to transform, from tragedy to crown, from obstacle to opportunity. And all the moments in between make us wiser. Watch Candid Conversations with Charisa for impactful, unheard moments that will certainly spark your power and inner truth to shift, heal, and restore your life. It's time to get real, uncover, unlock, unpack, set free, and increase the dialogue to change a life. We all start somewhere and end in places of destiny. Get ready for the long-awaited Candid Conversations with Charisa.
We are back. Candid Conversations with Charisa, Season 5, the anniversary celebratory season, and I am excited. Your host, Charisa Monroe-Wilborn, and I am so happy to bring to you a season where we have conversations on leadership and change, leadership and me, leadership having no age limit. It is all about leadership. Why? Because it's all about you. I'm all about making sure that you are taking care of you in order for you to take care of others. Why? Because our purpose is so much bigger than us. In this season, we're going to have so many special guests, and I'm so excited to bring to you not only knowledge from myself and my experience, but knowledge from other great leaders so that we can help you change your life. Stay tuned for powerful episodes coming up right now. You are here again for another episode of Candid Conversations with Charisa. And this is a special episode because I have a special guest. And even though she is no stranger to the world, she's actually very new to me. And I don't want to mess up her bio. I don't want to fall short on saying who she is and what she has done. So we're going to take a brief moment to watch her entire story in a short video. Stay tuned.
Reagan Nevels is an inspiration influencer, author, and motivational speaker on a mission to help others discover and access their dreams.
Don't use your age as an excuse. Don't say that you're too young or you're too old to accomplish a dream or goal.
At 12 years old, Reagan became a published author of Vision Collision, a guide to goal execution for dreamers of all ages. The message of her book has led readers to invite Reagan to speak at conferences, graduations, and church events around the country. She has been on the same ticket as Lisa Nichols, who is her mentor, coach, and Ayanna Van Zandt. She also was invited to be a speaker at the Potter's House, where world-renowned Bishop T.D. Jakes is the senior pastor. Reagan is a motivated entrepreneur that designs her very own fashion frames and t-shirts. She's also in the process of launching a youth coaching mentorship program that asks you the question, what do you want to be now, not later? Reagan passionately shares her formula for success by urging everyone to think, write, believe, and achieve. Reagan often says, don't use your age as an excuse. You are never too young or too old to reach for dreams and goals that are in your heart.
Reagan, thank you so much. That was so beautiful. You've done so much with your life in such a short time. And I was talking to your mom and she was saying all the things you've accomplished, starting from the age of 11. And you have written 2 books. You are a motivational speaker, author, entrepreneur. And you're only how old?
I'm 16 now.
You're only how old?
I'm 16.
She is 16, you guys. And she looks how old?
16?
You know, people tell me I look young. And I am going to thank you. How old I look, Reagan?
You look 17.
Look 17. Hey, age mate. There you go. And the minute you reached out to me, and I want to thank you so much for taking, because that was a bold step. That was a very bold step. And I actually get a lot of letters and messages very similar to yours. But for some reason, yours is the first one that tugged at my heart the way that it did. And I'm like, if you can get to me, I would love to have you on the show. I looked at your Instagram, your social media, I want to see who you are and what you were doing. I'm like, it didn't tell me how old you were at the time, but I can tell that you were young enough to be doing what you're doing. Clearly doing it long beyond your years. And you're on stage with, I saw you with a very, very good, she's not, I can't even say friend of mine because that'll almost be disrespectful, but she's a coach of mine that I recently engaged with, and I come to find out she's also a mentor of yours. Yes. The great Lisa Nichols.
Absolutely.
And you've been on stage with Ayanla Van Sant, Bishop T.D. Jakes, Real Talk Kim.
Yes.
I actually love Real Talk Kim. And these are great modules, and you're there with them. And so I want to stop talking, and I want to hear more from you, because you are the epitome of leadership having no limit, leadership having no excuses, leadership having no age requirement. You don't have to be 30, you don't have to be 40, you don't have to be 18. You can very well be 11 and changing lives. So tell me a little bit about what that journey has been for you for the last 4, 5, 6 years.
Well, I had got the wonderful opportunity to write my book at first. It didn't even start as me becoming a motivational speaker. I got the opportunity from a company called Leadership Develop Me to have my book written and published for free. And so once I heard that opportunity, I jumped at it. And I mean, the contest was for children up to ages of 18. So, of course, I was immediately hesitant and I was scared because, me 11 at the time, I was also going against kids that were 16, 17, and 18 years old. And I'm like, well, they have so much more life experience. They have, so much more, they're more articulate and everything. And I was like, can I really do this? And so I submitted a little summary of what I wanted my book to be about, which was my 4-step process: think, write, believe, and achieve. And I ended up winning the contest, and I got my book published and edited for free.
Amazing. That's good.
Thank you so much.
Write,
believe, and achieve.
Achieve. In that order.
Yes.
Think,
write,
if
believe,
you think
achieve.
it, you can write it down,
Absolutely.
write the vision down, and make it plain.
Yes.
If you can believe it, you can achieve it. And through this entire season, I'm going to be talking about it, I have been talking about a lot of our beliefs actually drive our decisions.
Yeah.
A lot of our beliefs drive our yes or our no, our movement. And to know that not only are you teaching something that you believe in, but you're teaching something that you've done. You thought about it and been thinking about it. You allowed yourself to push through the limiting beliefs and say, yeah, they may be older and they are more articulate, but maybe I do have a chance. And then you wrote it down,
yes.
And then here you are achieving it.
Yes.
And you're only how old?
16.
She is 16. So that was the Vision Collision book.
Yes, that
right?
was Vision Collision.
Tell me a little bit about the Vision Collision book and what that means. Vision Collision. I like that. Yes. And I want one of these shirts, by the way.
Okay, yes,
Please.
Vision Collision. Okay, so basically, both of my books have to do with my story and who I am. I had done dance at the time since I was 4 years old. I've been doing it since I was 4, but I was 11 at the time, so whatever that math is, we're not even going to do that now. But I've been doing it.
All that money. Yes, we could do the math in 2 seconds.
Yeah, honestly. But I had been doing it since I was 4, and I had got the opportunity to be able to do tennis. And so once I had did it during the summer, I ended up falling in love. And I was very good. I got a private coach and everything, and I was going to tournaments. And so it ended up coming to the point where I had to choose what I thought had to choose between dance and tennis, because I had been dancing, since I was 4, but I had been playing for tennis for 2 years, but I was amazing at it and I was winning everything. And so I was like, I'm gonna have to choose where I need to spend my time and what I need to commit to. And so, fast forward a couple years later, when I was sitting down and I was writing the book, I ended up choosing dance, by the way, but I was sitting down and writing my book, And I was like, I really didn't have to choose. If I had just channeled my energy towards one thing at a time, it was possible for me to achieve both of those dreams and both of those goals. And so I was sitting down writing Vision Collision, and one of the chapters is Bring It Down, which talks about channeling your energy. And so it just talks about no matter how many visions you have, as long as you channel your energy towards one thing at a time, you can collide them and be successful.
You can be in right
vision.
alignment.
Yes.
Yes. So you are a living example of, I was answering an audience member's question, and they want to know, how do I balance? How do you balance life? How do you balance things peacefully? And I don't like the word balance because you waste time balancing.
Right.
I prefer, how do you get into right alignment? And this is a perfect example of what a right alignment looks like. You can still engage all the moving parts that you want. You don't have to stop any of them. You don't have to not be one thing because you need to be something else. Right. Versus figure out how can I position them correctly and appropriately so they can all be in harmony in their right season.
Exactly.
And that is exactly what she has done. And you're how old?
16.
People. She is 16. Sitting up here talking more articulately than I am. I'm like, man, I need to stop talking and let you finish because, and I'm just now meeting you. But to think that 4, 5, 6 years ago, you had that thought of, ooh, they are much older than me. Therefore, they may be more articulate than me. What if Reagan had said, I cannot, I don't think I'm worth, I won't embarrass myself? What if you had those beliefs, and what if you believed those so strongly that you said, therefore I'm not going to enter? What if you had done that? But you said no. And this is one thing I love at the time, being 11, 12. This is one thing I love about children. Children will know something is probably going to hurt them, will know something is probably not gonna, they have no idea what's about to happen, and they're gonna do it anyway. They're gonna do it anyway. They have that immediate bravery, that immediate courage, that immediate, I'm gonna do it anyway, no matter what anybody says. Adults, by the time you get to my age, I know I look 17, and I'm gonna hold on to that, okay. But for 2 seconds, by the time you reach my age, courage is gone. Bravery is gone. No longer listening to people or no longer worrying about people is gone because life has happened. I've been hurt enough times. So now I have up every protective wall that says, if I don't know what is going to happen, I'm not going to do it. So one of the things I love to encourage a lot of my clients and my coaching clients is, if you can go back to what you were like as a 12-year-old, as a 5-year-old, where no matter what mom said, no matter what dad said, no matter what the teacher said, no matter how much no's, you're like, I'm gonna do this no matter what. Why? Because I want to. If anything happens, mom and dad will be there to pick me up, but I'm gonna do this. You're gonna be just as brave. You're gonna say yes, and when you don't wanna say no, you're gonna say no. Like, if we can go back to that, where we were when we weren't hurt, when life didn't happen, when we didn't have the experiences, when we didn't need to have protective walls, because we were just bold and strong. Like, that's children. And I think what we forget as adults, because what's sitting here is two different generations at 2 different ages doing the same thing. But when you become my age and your parents' age, and some of the audience members here, like their age, much older, you forget that, man, 50 years ago, that was me. 40 years ago, that was me. Just 20 years ago, that was me. I'm still that little kid. What has happened is life has just happened. Right. And again, I love and encourage, I glean from young adults and young individuals like yourself, because I remember when, man, I was just like, oh, how can I get back to, I'm gonna do it. And people are gonna be like, if you are that brave, then I'm gonna take that risk. And that's exactly what these people that you mentioned, whose platforms you share, like that's what they look at you and they be like, man, if she is that bold, then I'm gonna be that risky. And then the other book you wrote 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago,
yes,
It's called Why Wait? Your Time Is Now.
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
Well, I had released this book a little after COVID. And so honestly, I mean, God aligned it to be right with what was going on because, at the time, of course, people were hesitant. You didn't know if you could go outside to get your mail at the mailbox. You didn't know if you could go to the grocery store without coming back with the risk of having COVID. I mean, I remember my mom, when we would go get groceries, she would come in and we would have to wipe down all the boxes and sanitize all the bags because everybody was just in a state of fear. And I mean, everybody had every right to be. And so, I mean, like I said, you didn't want to come home and get COVID, but it had happened at a good time because that book talks about how the next moment is not promised and not waiting, because society has this thing of trying to convince you that, oh, you have your whole life, you have your whole adult life, you have all of life to be able to do everything that you desire to do. But there were teenagers. I mean, yes, there were older people that may have had underlying diseases, but there were children, there were teenagers, there were young adults that were passing away, unfortunately, because of COVID. And so that idea that you had your entire life went straight out the door as soon as a pandemic hit this world. And honestly, I've always believed that, despite whether COVID existed or not, but now it's really coming to fruition because the next moment is never promised. So don't wait. Your time is now. I mean, honestly, it's the matter of you making the decision yourself to see the potential within you to achieve those dream realities. So that's how that was born. And I'm glad that it came out at the time it did, because there were people telling me that they stopped what they were doing to get their PhDs. Kids were starting their YouTube channels, which is a big thing now. I mean, people were really just achieving the dreams and goals that they had a desire to do because of when the book was released. So.
That's good. That's good. Why wait? Your time is now.
Yes.
But first of all, where can we even get these books?
You can get them on my website, which is www.reagannevels.com.
Reagan Nevels,
Yes.
NEVELS.com. I'm going to make sure that you guys have access to this website, because I think these two books are not only needed for children, but this is a child who she's going to teach us as adults how to think like a child. And I think about the Word of God when it says He wants us to enter the kingdom of God like a child where there are no blemishes. They don't care. They haven't been experienced. They haven't been hurt. Therefore, it's easier for you to train and teach a child whose mental state is already a clean slate versus an adult who they have their own vision and they have their own hurts and they have their own beliefs that aren't godly. And it's so difficult for them to understand the kingdom of God and its benefits because society has been lying to them.
Right.
And then they have made the decision to accept the lies. And Reagan, I want to tell you, I'm so happy that you haven't made the decision to accept the lies. That decision, that society may say you are too young. That society may say you are not the right color.
Right.
And that society may say you are not the right sex. Because I know in America, black, female, and young, you got 3 odds against you in America. 3. And you are breaking every one of them. You are coming against every one of them. Like I'm looking at the next guy. This is the next president.
Oh God.
This is the next female president. This is the next female black president. Like this is what, forget America, this is what the world needs. And I'm so happy you didn't only come here by yourself, you came with your mom.
Yes.
And to know that you have that support. Have your parents always from the beginning, have they always been supportive of this big, gigantic, enormous dream you had? Or, and I say or only because there are some kids who they tell their parents what they want to do and what they want to be. And the first thing they hear is, boy, go sit down. Girl, shut up. But did you have parents who said, whatever you want to do, Reagan, what do you need us to do? Or we are here?
Well, ever since I was going to say a child, but I'm still a child. Ever since I was younger, I mean, my parents told me stories about how I would walk around with my phone, or their phones, of course, at the time, in a notebook, like I was a news reporter or something. So they expected me to be a light to people. They expected me to do something like, you know, a news talk or radio or something like that. So as I was doing it, they were like, oh, this is just normal. And so when the idea of the book came around, I had told them, I was like, I think this is a contest that I want to enter. And so it was just one of those things that, you know, they thought was normal. They were like, okay, it didn't really register. But then I got serious about it, and I was adamant about it. And I was telling them, this is something that I really want to do. And so from the jump, they were supportive, you know, constantly pouring into me about who I am, what an example I want to set, and who I want to be in this world, what goals I exactly want to accomplish. So I would say that I've always been blessed to have supportive parents.
And that is blessed. You and I both have been blessed to have parents from such a young age who only spoke life, who never said, no, you can't. Actually, my dad tells me all the time, nothing named can't. There's nothing that you can't do. And there'll be times when I'll say, Dad, I can't. And it'll be something simple. Dad, I can't open this. Dad, I can't. Nothing named can't. Have you tried? Yes, I have. Have you tried harder? Like, they've always supported my brothers and I dream. And they never once made us to be what they were or what they thought we would be. Now, I always say that, but I always give the joke. It's a serious life experience. But it's a joke because I always loved doing hair. When I was younger, loved doing hair. I went from Barbies to doing my own, to doing my cousins, my friends. So you couldn't tell me at the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I even worked in my aunt's beauty salon. And I just wanted to be in the environment. So I started out by just being the person that swept the hair off the floor. And then I went from that to being at the hair bowl, being able to wash. So I enjoyed that. You couldn't tell me I was not going to be a cosmetologist. I told my dad, I want to be a cosmetologist. He said, oh, no, not no, daughter of mine.
What?
And it's because, I don't know that it was because he was knocking down a vision that I had. I think he knew that I was more.
Exactly.
Or there was something more that I was to do. And so I don't take it as, because I have a great cosmetologist. Like, I'm so glad that she's a cosmetologist. Like, that was what she was born to do. That is not what I was born to do. It was something that I liked. I loved doing it. I went to college and still did person's hair, and I didn't want to do it for money. I just loved doing it.
Right.
And that's fine. But it wasn't what I was born to do. And I think my parents knew that. So as parents, as the guardians that God gave to me to mold me and shape me and train me until I became an adult, they saw more. They saw different. They saw better for me. And he was like, oh, no, you can't. No, you are not doing this cosmetology thing. What else do you want to do? And then eventually I grew out of that phase. And, totally moved on to being something else. But I also recognized that it was just something that I like to do for fun, you know? But you and I both have the parents who just have been supportive. And sometimes you want to know that they're your first cheerleader. You want to know that your family is your first cheerleader before you go out to the world. So I want to give kudos to Mom, Casey,
yes,
and Dad. You give them a shout out because they deserve to get it.
Absolutely.
I think that is so good. The other thing I want to talk about, and I want you to talk about, is so one of your main focus as you go around motivating and inspiring is you focus on age not being a limit.
Yes.
And can you give us just a few pointers on what that means for you? I know what it means for me, but what does that mean for you?
Well, age is not a limit means that there is about nothing in this world that I can't reach or begin to reach, no matter what age I am. Like, it doesn't matter whether I'm 10 years old, it doesn't matter whether I'm 30. If I have a dream, I'm going to chase after it. Now, when I go speak, I do say, of course, there's some things that you need a degree for. There's some things, some doors that you can't get in without a degree. But for the most part, especially with the world that we live in now, with the society that we live in, you can get almost any information that you need online. And so I utilized that. My first book, it was self-published. Well, it was published through Leadership Develop Me, but I got the information I needed offline to be able to do so. And so all the dreams and goals that I have now, I mean, there's nobody that could tell me I can't do it, even though I'm 16 years old. And so whatever kids that come up to me and tell me that they have a dream, I sit down with them and I walk them through what exactly they may need to do or how they can get there or inspire them to do it. Because even though I've been blessed with the support system from my parents, some kids don't have that. Some kids don't have that, immediate acceptance from their family members or from their friends. And so I want to be that person for them to tell them, it doesn't matter how young you are. It doesn't matter for adults. It doesn't matter how old you are. As long as you still have the dream, as long as you still have the goal, as long as you still have the ambition and you believe that it's your purpose, you can do it. It doesn't matter if you have a degree or not. It doesn't matter what the world or society says. As long as you believe it, that's what we were talking about earlier, belief truly alters the way that your life goes. It alters whether you work a traditional 9-to-5 and not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it alters whether you work a traditional 9-to-5 or whether you achieve all the dreams and goals and ambitions that God has for you. So that's just one thing that I really push, that age is never a limitation.
It's not a limitation. I think about Jesus.
Yeah.
How old was he? Jesus was much younger than
12.
I am. He was 12.
Yes.
And he died at 33. And he built and lived a legacy that we talk about decades and centuries later. Like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. Mm-hmm. I want to have built such a legacy that people are talking about my life and what I've done centuries, thousands of years later. Which brings me to another question I'd like to ask you is, have you had naysayers? Have you had people that try to discourage you? People that looked at your age, or that looked at your color, or that looked at your sex and said, how dare you, or why you, or how could you? Have you experienced any of that?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to not have to get into any too deep situations, but there have been a few, hate comments online or whatever, and then in school it wasn't immediately accepted. Like, people would look up my book or they would look up my videos online and play them in the middle of class. And for me, it was embarrassing because they weren't looking at it to be inspired by it. They were looking at it to be like, oh yeah, they were mocking it. And so I would just sit in the corner by myself or just continue talking to my friends as if it didn't affect me. But, of course, there was always something inside that was just hurt by it, because I see myself as doing something amazing and something great. And I truly desire to impact the world. But, those kids, they didn't see it that way, and they were, mocking it and making fun of it. So like I said, it wasn't anything too deep, but there was a few.
Any idea where those kids are now?
Honestly, let me tell you this. One of them rode down the street, like maybe June or July, because I went to school. I'm a very public person, and I went to public school, and I live in the neighborhood with almost half of my class of 2023. And so one of them rode down the street the other day when I was going out with my family. We were in the driveway about to get in the car. And so he rode down the street in the car with his friends. He was like, hey, Reagan. I was like, is that you? Hey, I don't want to say his name, but I was like, hey, is that you? And he was like, yeah. He said, I read your book and it's really, really great.
Really?
And I was like, you did? And he was like, yeah, I did. It's like super amazing. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. And he was in a car going 40 miles an hour, so it wasn't too much of a conversation. But it was just like, wow, you were one of the people that didn't support it from the beginning. But now I come to find out that you bought the book, you read it, and you just told me that you're inspired by it. So, I mean, it was just so amazing. And then people on social media that I used to be friends with contacted me, and they comment under my videos now. And they're like, Reagan, this is so inspirational. And so that just really taught me the importance of staying persistent and not listening to the naysayers and not listening to the hate. Because at the end of the day, you're doing something amazing no matter what negative things people have to say about it.
And what you're doing, you're standing out. You're setting yourself apart. And people, as much as people may not want you in their circle, they also don't want to see you on the outside doing well.
Right.
And I think as leaders, it happens to, Reagan, it happens to us as adults. Please don't ever believe that you are alone. It happens to me, it happens to people in here, I'm sure, even the greater leaders that we know, when you're doing something good, when you're doing something big, when you're doing something great, you're always going to have people that are going to mock. You're always going to have people that are going to appear like they're against you. And usually they're the ones that are watching, that are following, that know that you're doing something good. But because they haven't, and I pray for them, because they themselves haven't understand how much of a leader they are, how influential and impactful they themselves can be, if they stop focusing on everybody else around them and start focusing on harnessing their gifts and who they are. Right. And so they waste their time mocking you because it's an indication to them that I'm not doing something. So you doing you is an indication to them that they're not doing me. Right. And so they have to mock you to at least make themselves feel better. And so I'm happy to hear that. And that's major. That's a major name. But for you to say, Reagan said, oh, I haven't been in anything deep. No, just the kids in school just play my book. And she just made it sound like it's just roll off her back. And to know that you even look at it as something not so deep says so much about your character as a person, but also as the kind of leader that you are and the great leader that you are already. So even when I hear you say, I don't want to say a child because I'm still a child. Yes, you're a child in number and in age, but when it comes to your leadership, your visionary ability, you are so more mature than so many 40, 50, 60-year-old leaders that I'm aware of. And I'm so grateful that you have graced Candid Conversations with Charisa.
Oh, I'm so thankful
with your
for
presence.
this opportunity. Thank you.
Tell me what this is. Actually, it's funny because I think, remember I said to you, it's interesting how the people whose platforms you shared, they saw bold, so therefore they took the risk. Like I saw bold. So what even made you say, I'm going to reach out to, she boldly asked, Reagan boldly asked, I see you do a show. My parents love you. My parents love your parents. I just want to know, how do I get to be a guest in your show? That was her question. And like I said, I get that question a lot. And I pick my guests. I'm very careful with who I allow to share this platform with, to share my space with. But it was, when I said you pulled up my string, you pulled up my heart, and I was like, if you are that bold, I will take that risk. Not knowing anything about who this Reagan Nevels is until the last 2-3 weeks. And what made you say, you know what, I'm going to reach out, I'm going to send a note, and if she's, and I don't know if you said, if she said no, it said no, if she says yes, like what even made you say, you know what, I'm going to be comfortable enough to send this text?
Well, first off, I just want to thank you so much for even saying yes, because that was half of it right there, and I'm so excited and grateful for the opportunity to be here. But to be completely honest with you, I have always been like that in my life. I'm just bold and adamant about something. Like when I have a dream or when I see something can happen, I shoot after it. And so my mom, she actually was a big fan of your father, and he's amazing. I mean, his legacy is absolutely wonderful, and kudos to him, and God rest his soul. But my mom, she introduced me to you. And so I looked on your Instagram and I saw the amazing things that you were doing, and I saw the show and everything, and I was like, I have to be a part of that. And so, I was like, it's just something that I can't be a part of it. So reached out to you, and I was so thankful that you said yes. And I actually want to tell another story in that about, my bravery, I guess you can say. I had done it before for Lisa Nichols. She had actually, I reached out to her and asked her if I could be a part of her, it was Speak and Write 2019. Mm-hmm. And so I reached out, I was like, okay, I don't have the money to pay for this. I can get a flight and I can get there, but the tickets were $2,000 a piece, and I needed a parent with me. Back then, I didn't have it like that. And so I was like, if I can just volunteer, if I could just be in the room, if I could just, serve water, anything to just get in the room, can I be there? And so her team reached back out to me, and they were like, you know what, Reagan, we're gonna comp your entire trip for you and a parent to just be able to come and share the experience.
And that is so Lisa Nichols.
It is.
That is so Lisa Nichols.
And so that happened, and I was grateful for that. And then the next one came. And so I had paid to get that one, but I had got just a little bit closer to her this time. And the opportunity arose for me to be able to serve her slightly. I served her slightly. And then the third one happened in November. I believe the second one was in April or, sometime up in spring. So the third one happened in November. This time, I was serving her personally. I was backstage with her, telling her when she needed to be on stage next. I was handing her water. I was in the room when she was teaching her, everybody that she was teaching in her courses.
Wait a minute. I literally, in this entire season, I talk about leadership starting, beginning, ending, encompassing the idea of serving first.
Yes.
Like the best way to learn from greater leaders is to serve. And to hear you sit here and say, you don't want anything. I just want to serve. I just want to be where you are. I just want to learn how you learn. I just want to learn what you know. I just want to learn how you know. And you served. Like that was me and my dad. And to hear you, I gave her water. Like that's a servant. But that is a leadership and a servant heart. Oh, I had to stop because
Thank you.
the viewers are hearing you live what I talk about, what I encourage, what I try to impart into them. To, if you want to be a great leader, serve leaders that are so much greater than you.
Yes.
So you were saying you served her, you got a little closer.
Yes, I was putting her shoes on. I mean, something that was really dear and a memory that I will hold forever is she invited me back to her hotel room with her immediate family, and I made tacos with her cook. And so it was really fun because then I got to go give her tacos and everything. But I say all that to say it all started with me believing in myself. It all started with me asking. The Bible says, ask and you shall receive. It also says, you have not because ye ask not. And so that's one thing that I truly live by. A lot of the things that people say that they don't have, or we say that we can't have, or experiences that we can't experience are because we simply don't ask. We don't ask for the resources. We don't ask for the space. I didn't have the $2,000 to get a ticket, and never in a million years would I thought she would comp my entire trip to be able to come and just be in the room. I was the youngest in the room. I was 12 or 13 at the time. Everybody else were middle-aged adults. Never in a million years did I think I would be there, but it was because I asked. And I believed in myself to be able to get in that space, and my willingness to serve and still serve, that I was able to do it. So any dream that you have, anybody that's watching, I want to encourage you that it doesn't matter what dream you have. It doesn't matter what goal you have. It doesn't matter how expensive it is or what society tells you that you can or you can't have in that situation. Just ask for it. And honestly, doing that will show you how far you can get.
And Reagan Nevels, you guys, have just ended this episode of Candid Conversations with Charisa. Reagan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for believing in yourself. Thank you so much for believing so much in yourself that it made your ask so easy for you to do. And it made your ask so easy for me to say yes. You will be back.
Oh.
Reagan will be back, guys. She will be back.
Thank you.
That was good. You have just watched another great, powerful, life-changing episode of Candid Conversations with Charisa. And I hope that you are ready to take the necessary actions to make your life so much better and so much different starting today. Don't wait to take the action that's needed to make yourself a much greater leader than you are right now. For those that are following you, for those that you are leading, they are so waiting for you to be an extraordinary individual. Stay tuned and come back next week for another great and powerful episode with your host, Charisa Monroe-Wilborn. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share, and don't forget to comment. I love reading your comments. I love hearing from you. I love when you join the conversation. See you soon.